Are we so dazzled by shiny visuals that we have forgotten what really makes a game great? Talking about graphics these days feels like stepping on a landmine. Everyone wants polished visuals, but honestly, developers have always chased better graphics. That's nothing new. Players just adapt over time, or maybe we lost sight of what really matters. It also depends when you start playing, because it is not the same having lived through this period of time than starting here. And this is not about elitism or anything like that. Now, when the whole thing about video games began, they didn't have that complete and kinda clear idea as today. One of the main constraints was technology. For older gamers, you won't let me lie. Past generations shared defined jumps between each console. It is not the same playing in the NES, SNES, Virtual Boy. Wait a second, Nintendo! Why do you want to tune the parish? Necromancy is not the way. Mejor arregla tu desmadre de las keycards. Suckabliat. 64, GameCube. Well, between each of those generations, it was possible to notice interesting changes, but since the 7th generation, things start to take a different direction, because the industry began to bastardize the graphics, asking things to be realistic. This whole movement definitely attracted a whole group of players, because video games began to look radically different to the average standard from previous generations. Ironically, here is when the Japanese side of gaming began to collapse, but that is a story for another video. The prime point is, why do we look after these kinds of executions? It is simple, because they surprise you more than a pixel art or some cartoonish execution, and the industry knows that. And that's exactly what they are after, the "yo, look at this" moment. In older generations that particular effect was harder to achieve, but we could name some games that stood out for their graphics, such as Donkey Kong Country, Final Fantasy VII, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, Half-Life 2, and yep, it is inevitable to mention it, but what about Watch Dogs? A trailer from 2012, plenty of hopes and wishes, and what happened here? Well, maybe it is because Bugisoft was the one behind this. I could also mention Cyberpunk, but yeah, that is not a game that looks after realism, and it is needless to mention what happened either. Technology was one of the biggest limitations, but right now we could say that something like this is perfectly achievable. What is my honest opinion about it? Sure, it looks nice, but I don't want to play a video game like that, because it is just appealing to that "yo, look at this." But getting past that effect, more often than not these kinds of video games that look after realism are one of the bunch, because this requires work, and we all know what is your average experience in your AAA video game. And yes, that is a topic for another video. Maybe next week, maybe another year, I don't know, but soonish TM, as when a AAA release tries to fix a buggy game, and then seems like no one remembers it. That, or a bunch of bots harassing those who saw this coming. Another great example of this is a game named Bodycam. It definitely hooked in the very first hours. Once again, that "yo, I would play that." And yeah, as someone who used to like first-person shooters, yes, it looks cool, but it is going to be the same experience as always, but with cooler graphics. And the point is that the industry pretty much created a problem and solved an answer, because that is an easy way to make money. When Unreal Engine and Unity first came out, it was nice to see that you don't really need to develop an engine. Like Jesus Chrysler, only the old school programmers knew how to dive into those abysses and come back. With each new generation, these companies come out and say, "Hey, look at these, beautiful visions, huh? Well, you can do it, you're on your own. But wait a second, I could give you all these assets for a modest price." The next second, every freaking walking simulator looks the same, every city is the same thing, and rather than feeling interesting, it feels hollow and without soul. Ironic, I know, it looks dazzling and shiny, but when it is more of the same, over and over again, it loses its charm. And it is not to say that I don't enjoy realistic games, or with realistic graphics. I may not play them that often, but every now and then, sure, it works. However, when many point in the same direction, it is like, I've seen this place like 8 times, aside from 3 or 4 particular things. Of course, games like Gran Turismo definitely look after that realism, but realistic, we know that is a level we can place under particular nuances, cause I don't want to drive something in Nürburgring while raining, just saying. I remember looking at this video like 13 years ago, and think, dude, check those graphics. I would definitely play Super Metroid once again. But there is a catch here. The person who's working in this image is respecting, in a way, the original vision of the game. Colors, the essence, pretty much everything. Plus adding little details that work fine. And like this, plenty of fun projects throw interesting things every now and then. But it is also true that when these kinds of projects see the light, every now and then I get to see some that look uglier. And it is not about nostalgia or a particular affinity towards graphics. In this channel I have shown polar opposites, going from games that are serious in their nature until those that are jokes with questionable gameplay. The deal here is that when we talk about companies and remakes or remasters, we perfectly know they are going to chop things in half, because directors feel that they may offend someone out there. And we need to consider everyone's feelings. Oh, come on, it's a game, throw some skin. It is much more questionable that we have these freaking body cams than a dude that is horny but afraid to mention it. This particular comment about remakes and remasters is because ironically, and while writing ideas about this video, the thing about Bluepoint came to light. And kinda knowing how Miyazaki looks at Bloodborne, he might be like, Demon Soru oboete imasu ka? Or also Shadow of the Colossus. And just to be clear, I am not saying they are bad. All I am saying is that doing little changes just because you thought it was a good idea, believe me, it is not a good idea. At least while execution refers, because you're getting in the way of how someone saw this world getting together. And at least I can say, Shadow of the Colossus definitely felt different. I am not saying it was bad, but it didn't hit the same. If you have seen some of my videos about remakes and things like that, you won't let me lie. But there is a title I want and I don't want to see. Because I know nowadays it will be controversial as heck. But in all honesty, it would be wonderful if they respect the whole vision as it was brought here. It is even hard to say if I want the second half to be fits. I hope you get my point. Anyways, my biggest complaint with all of this realistic mess is that for some reason, seems like graphics and gameplay go hand in hand, and oftentimes certain mechanics while running or doing some other things feel clunky as heck. Like, dude, it is a game. I want my freaking character to run without having that feeling like they are moving a bag of potatoes in their bags, or that they are doing the delicious Idea Factory. I know you don't make realistic games, but this goes for you as well. Unfortunately, graphics drag the experience. I know they are appealing in many ways, but I couldn't care less about them, because the industry isn't prepared to bring that kind of work as your average standard, without breaking several things in between. In all honesty, I prefer a modest, original and creative execution than those realistic games that try to go beyond realism, with light, contrast and polish air as if every vehicle out there looked like that. Mechanics are another topic, but let's say there is a reason why games like Call of Duty are entertaining to play. I won't glorify indies, but sometimes looking at things here is like, there's still beautiful things to see, or at least unique ideas. And for better or worse, oftentimes releasing doesn't meet those standards. Aside from the dazzling and shiny effect, I hope you found this video entertaining. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.